guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about the encoder versus the physical medical coding books. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so I got a viewer comment and I'm going to read the comment and then we're going to get into it. So here we go. Alright, so the viewer says, "Hello Blue, can you please make a video about the pros and cons of getting the ebooks versus the physical coding books? I am new to coding. Should I wait until I have more experience to switch to the ebooks?" So I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that this person is a student and not a medical coder yet, because they said that they are new to coding, okay? And they're wondering if they should wait. So when you are working at a facility, a lot of times you are going to be using an encoder. Many facilities have an encoder. Some do not, but most do. And so you're going to be working with the encoder. As far as like production goes, it's much faster to use the encoder. And again, the encoder, if you don't know, is the electronic medical coding book, right? It has all the codes in it. All you have to do is just type in a few keywords and then go to the paths, and then it'll bring up the code. Whatever path you chose, it'll bring up the code basically for that. So if you are a student though, you should stay far away from encoders. Now is not the time for you to dabble in encoders, because you need to be focused on the book and getting speed with your books, because that's how you're going to learn. And of course, when we are sitting for medical coding certification exams, you cannot use the encoder. You have to use your books. So if you are still a student, then obviously, you are going to look forward to the encoder while you are working. But while you are a student, you want to stick with the books. Now, I will say this, even if you have experience now, and perhaps, you are out there in the world and you're using the encoder, I still recommend not losing your speed and continuing to work with your books from time to time. Maybe not in a production setting, but at least in a practice setting. Because when you are under production, obviously you need to be going through the encoder so that way you can maintain your speed. But there's going to be times when the encoder may lead you down the wrong path, and it may lead you to a different code that doesn't quite make sense for the situation that's being described in the note. So you want to make sure that you have your books on hand so that you can actually look in the books and look codes up manually, because sometimes it's just better that way. Sometimes with the encoder, it gets a little detailed and you have to kind of know things, and it's like, which way do I go? And so again, you can always end up with the wrong code. So it's best to have the books to back you up. It is best not to lose your speed, as I said, because when you're a medical coder who has experience, you may want to continue on with other certifications that are going to require you to have speed with your book, right? If you are certified with the outpatient side of the house, maybe you have the CCSP, or maybe you have the CPC, and you want to move on to having the CCS, which is the gold standard of medical coding credentials, because it says that you can code both inpatient and outpatient. You're going to need to have your speed with the books, period. I mean, you have to be fast. If you are wanting to sit for the CCS, it is roughly 2 minutes per question. So you want to make sure that you are fast with looking up codes, with, processing information. You want to make sure that you are really good with that. So with that said, you never want to lose your speed with these books. Having books comes in handy. A lot of people write to me and complain, "Blue, I hate the books." Don't write to me complaining that you hate books, because I'm a book lover. I take that very personally. I love books, and I always think that, if you become too dependent on electronics to help you, it can hurt you, right? Books never hurt anybody. Books don't have to be download. Well, I mean, if you're online, but if you have a physical book, you don't have to wait for it to be downloaded. You don't have to wait for it to, go through all of its changes and lag time and things like that. You can literally open the book and go right to wherever you are looking. And so that's what I love about books. I mean, books, they're available all the time. Just like the internet, yes. And the internet is faster. but it's not always better. You know, sometimes the slow way is the best way, and the slow way is actually going to be the fast way sometimes, because by the time you get done answering all those questions in the encoder, it was just as fast to be able to look it up in the book. And the book was probably a lot faster. But, you know, the encoder, of course, has its advantages. It does, you know, sometimes tell you that, hey, there's a code missing, or is there something else? Or, you know, is there another condition that goes along with this code so we can use a combination? And so it does prompt those things. And while the book does too, you really have to pay attention in the book for those prompts that, you know, hey, is there another condition? Is this involving this other thing? You know, is there a long-term use on this as well? So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to those, that you never lose your confidence looking things up in the book. You're never going to lose confidence on how to be able to actually get the codes. Because sometimes when we get into the real world as medical coders and we find ourselves in like a repetitive clinic where things sort of like are always the same, and it's just like same codes, same procedures, and you're seeing a lot of the same thing over and over again, it can be very boring. And you always want to keep that engagement in your brain when it comes to learning about these codes, because while you may end up with a couple of years of experience, if you're coding the same thing, you only have a couple of years experience coding in one thing, right? And you don't want to ever get like that. You want to get to where, hey, you have a couple of years experience and you are well versed. You've got a lot of variety of training, and you've got a lot of different settings that you've been working in and different specialties you've been working in. You want to be able to have that, so that way it doesn't translate to just the same thing over and over again. You know, that's the danger of like these employers, that they insist on medical coders coming in with years of experience. But again, if a coder has only been working in one type of setting, one type of specialty, only doing a certain type of coding, and that's all they know, that's not a very well-rounded coder, is it? That's not a very valuable coder now, is it? If they only just know one thing. To be very high caliber and valuable, you do need to expand your knowledge base and learn as many different types of specialty settings as that you can, because it makes you more marketable. It makes you eligible for more opportunities when you are able to do things like that. If you are, again, working in the same thing, you know, you never know what other opportunities you may lose out on because you don't have experience in that, right? I've seen this happen with risk adjustment coders, which is why I tell people who are brand new and they're applying for like risk adjustment, they get really excited because there's no procedures, there's no E&M, they don't have to worry about that. It's just diagnosis coding. So they get very excited about this. And while it may sound tempting, there's a lot of employers that will say in their job listing that if your only experience has been an HCC or risk adjustment, that they do not count that as experience because it is just diagnosis coding. So again, you have to be very careful about, you know, where you're learning things, but always staying up with a book. There is no cons to that. Okay. It's always going to be a pro. It's always going to be a good thing if you stay familiar with your books. And again, don't complain that they're heavy, because they have to have every single diagnosis and procedure and durable medical equipment known to man. They have to have all of that. So it's going to take, you know, some bulk to be able to cover all of that. But if you use your books properly, if you use them wisely, you will not have this issue of ever, you know, losing your confidence. Actually, it'll make you more confident. I think people who continually use their books are more confident than those who do not. And those who just solely depend on the encoder to guide them along and have no skill in the coding book can be stuck. And for some people, they're fine with that. That is, you know, what they're like, you know, Blue, I don't need to go to all these different things. I don't need to do all these things. I have my job. I'm okay. They see it as a job. In this field, you have to devote time to learning it so that you can be more proficient at it. Because even if you are in the same clinic and you think you're proficient, trust me, there's plenty still for you to learn. I've been in orthopedics and in podiatry, And I know that there's still things that I need to learn because I'm learning constantly all the time when I'm at work. And that's a great thing for me, because the more I learn, the more I'm willing to learn, the more I'm willing to open my mind to different experiences, the more marketable I can be. You know, I could go anywhere right now. I mean, not that I would want to leave my facility, but I could go anywhere right now and be able to find a job, because I have so much experience doing different things and working with different specialties and different providers. So that makes it all the more relaxing to me. I don't ever have to worry, you know, because of that. And so that's something that I want to pass along to you guys. Don't ever get away from these books. And don't ever become so dependent on the encoder that you lose your speed, okay? Because speed is very big. You know, last year when I took the CCSP and the CCS, I worried because I had lost my speed for the longest time with the books. I had to retrain myself in order to get back into my speed with the book. So I shared everything that I learned about regaining my speed with all of you, which is take the time to open up each and every single one of your books that you need for your exam and look through each and every single page, so that way you can familiarize yourself with the book. The more you practice with the book, the faster you will get with the book. And again, it's not something you ever want to lose. You always want to keep and maintain that speed. The encoder, while they are great, I do have a encoder demonstration video that I did. It is commercial free. There are no commercials on this. So if you're interested, I will leave that video in the description box below, so that way you guys can check it out. But it does, you know, break down where I break it down, so that way you can see the different steps that you have to go through to get the codes. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer, you know, to go through that than it would be if you just got your book out and just opened it up. So as somebody who is very biased to books, I'm always going to recommend that you maintain your speed with the books. Always. And plus, another pro of working with a book is that you're not constantly exposing your eyes to a screen all the time. Sometimes we have to kind of watch our screen time, because as medical coders, we're constantly with the computer screen all day long, okay? Even as students, we are with the computer screen all day long. But we can still take time to give our eyes a break and actually look things up in the book, because that's going to make that little bit of a break time. It's going to help with the eye fatigue. You're not going to, you know, get so worn out right away just because you've been staring, you know, at the computer screen. You're going to be able to look in these books, and it'll give your eyes a nice rest. So that way you don't have that constant light on your eyes. At least that's just another pro that I can think of anyway. But encoders can be a great supplement to your work, you know, if that's what you want to do. If you are talking about ebooks, like workbook ebooks, those are good. I still prefer to have a physical book. If I'm a student, I prefer to have physical books that I can flip through rather than have to scroll up and down when I'm working through a workbook, because I like the fact that I can look at it, I can flip back and forth on the pages. And yes, while I can do that with an ebook, you still have to sit there and scroll, you know, where you could just open the book and flip through the book. And again, you're asking a book lover which way to go. I'm always going to recommend the books, the physical books themselves. So that's my advice anyway. But yes, these books are never going to get smaller, if that's what you're thinking too. Yes, they will be in electronic form, but they will never get smaller. You will always need them for your exams, your medical coding exams. If, of course, you are sitting for your degree designations, the RHIT, the associate's degree, the Registered Health Information Technician, or the RHIA, the Registered Health Information Administrator, you do not need these. You do not need the coding manuals for those two exams, but you do for the medical coding certification exams, okay? I hope everybody got that. For the CCS, the CCA, CCSP, or the CPC, or even the CIC, you do need your medical coding manuals. But for the degree designations, you do not need those books. The RHIA and the RHIT. They do not need books. Okay, so but yeah, that's my episode for today. It's a pretty quick one, but I mean, I think it's pretty well straightforward how I feel about books anyway. You can always find really good deals on books. This is not an ad. You can find them on Optum360coding.com. You can also go to abebooks.com, abebooks.com. They have a lot of the workbooks that I recommend on sale there, very cheap. The CPC Study Guide that I always recommend, even though I'm with AHIMA. I like that book. I think it's a great book, and I think they did a really good job with it. I think it's very straightforward. It's good for students to learn on. And you can find it there very cheap on Abe Books, okay? Same thing with the ICD-10-CM and ICD-10-PCS Coding Handbook with the answers. It is also available on Abe Books. With the books that with the answers versus without the answers. So I know that ICD-10-CM and ICD-10-PCS Coding Handbook there's a version out there without the answers. And it is very cheap. And so it's very tempting to get that, yes. But just keep in mind it doesn't have the answers. So just, if you're out there and you're studying, just know that. I mean, it doesn't have the answers. So just make sure that when you're looking up the answers, you're trying to verify that those are actually the correct answers that you are choosing. Okay, at least that's just my advice anyway. I always recommend to find the book with the answers because how else are you going to know if you got the answer right or not? This is my advice anyway. So I'm going to wrap this one up. If you've been studying, please leave me that blue heart. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe and share, and I'll see y'all again. Bye.